So the third issue for Peter is confrontation. And this is the big one for Peter. Remember, didn't even apply to Gloria. Okay, so here's Peter, and here's the confrontation clause. And again, it breaks into two sub-issues, as a lot of these issues had. The first is the Crawford case. This, as you know, is the seminal case that laid down the principle that the testimony of an unavailable witness who has not been subjected to cross-examination prior is inadmissible because it violates the Sixth Amendment criminal defendant's right to confront witnesses against him. Okay, so the key inquiry in Crawford and in our case is whether the evidence is testimonial. Okay, in our case, it was a 911 operator who was questioning Peter on the phone. Now, Crawford says that interrogations by the police, clearly a reasonable person would know that when they responded to interrogations by the police, that it could be used against the accused, and so they would know it was testimonial. So the issue here is whether a 911 operator who is not a police employee gives that same sort of reasonable assumption that it's going to be used testimonially. The other case in the library that construes Crawford is the Davis case, and the Davis case says that when a 911 operator is asking interrogative questions, is interrogating, okay, who did this, where, what's his license number, what does he look like, any of those sorts of type questions, then the 911 operator is acting as an agent of the police. You also know in our facts that that Officer James, moments after the 911 conversation, knew what Peter had said to the 911 operator. Said, it was one of our sons. Okay, it was our son who did this. And so the information had been handed off from the 911 operator to the police, further supporting that the 911 operator was an agent of law enforcement at that time. So that's the first issue, that it is testimonial. Okay, and therefore the Sixth Amendment applies and it should be excluded. The second issue directly relates to the Davis case, and it makes a sort of a bright line distinction between when you make a 911 call, if what you say to the 911 operator is to address an ongoing emergency, then it's not testimonial. But once the ongoing emergency has resolved itself, then any further questioning by the 911 operator is in fact interrogation. Okay, so bright line between, is it an ongoing emergency? Not testimonial. Is the emergency over and the 911 operator keeps asking questions? Then it's testimonial and it's excluded. The Davis case gives a 4-factor test. I'm going to have to look at this because I can't see through the paper. It's on the next page. The Davis case gives a 4-factor test for this bright line. Okay, the first factor are the questions concerning something that is happening now or something that happened in the past? And here Peter, God bless him, was quite clear that his son had beaten his wife to death and had left the house, had left in his car, and even gave the license number for the car. Okay, so Peter knows that the event is over. It's not an ongoing event. Second, sort of similar, whether the caller is facing an ongoing emergency or whether the emergency is over. Peter, as you recall, believed that his wife was already dead. So he was not calling to bring help to his wife, nor did he seem to know how serious his own injuries were, so he wasn't asking for an ambulance for himself. He was specifically calling to report that his son had did this. So it wasn't facing an ongoing emergency. He believed the wife was dead. Third, questions to resolve an emergency versus learning about the past. Again, quite similar. And here, the 911 operator's questions about which son was this, what description of his car, that sort of thing, are questions that are not about resolving an ongoing emergency, but rather about collecting evidence to accuse the son, Christopher. And then the fourth one is the demeanor of the caller and whether the caller was frantic or calm. Okay, if you're in the example they give is if the witness is in the police station and is being interviewed in the police station, he would be calm. The events are over. In our case, this factor is a little difficult because remember that Peter is severely injured. He's just seen his wife beaten to death by his son, and he literally dies within a second of being asked this question. So, no, he's not calm. He is frantic. But I would say that factor doesn't argue against this being testimonial, given the circumstances. So under the Davis case, this is not addressing an ongoing emergency. It's talking about past events. Therefore, it's testimonial. And therefore, it's excluded by the Sixth Amendment Confrontation Clause. And that concludes our discussion of this PT.